All right, so we are live. It is almost 11 o'clock, 8/18/2023. Got a few things to go over tonight. I'm going to do a check on the tropics, um, particularly the Pacific, find out what's going on with Hillary. Then we'll do a True Crime Weekly recap. And I will present this here first because I forget to do it all the freaking time. I am sitting outside. And it's going to be absolutely cold tonight here. Um, and it just sucks because we're just apparently not going to get a summer here. And I technically want a refund. All right, so here we cover true crime stuff. So this is my disclaimer here. But I'm going to try to get some maps ready and come back in a few seconds. So let's play the intro and I'll be right back. Okay, so let's go here. Since I have it up on the screen. And we are going to go. I mean, this is the Atlantic here. We have one, two, three, four possibilities here. This being the most promising here, and another one coming off the coast of Africa here. But let's go to the Pacific. And we have Hurricane Hillary. So maximum sustained winds down a little bit from this morning, 130 mile an hour winds. So it's I believe that's around Cat 3, Cat 4. The central pressure is up a little bit, 948. The coordinates located at 19.7 north, 112.7 west, and it's moving about 13 miles an hour north-northwest. So that's and they've added a little feature here, which is really nice because I could just switch over here and get into the Atlantic. So that is great. It might have been there the whole time. I don't know. All right. So let's get some satellite imagery here. Actually, since this is here, so we have, this is the observations of Hillary. I guess they flew out here. I can't find a time. But this, the 13 knots. Right, so let's do this here. We're going to go, I think it's better to do it this way. Okay, so this is basically the planet. And this is the Atlantic here. This is the Pacific, Eastern Pacific, anyways. And you see these waves that are coming off the coast here. I was looking at this one earlier this morning, and I've been following this for a couple of days actually. But this is the immediate threat right now. This is Hurricane Hillary out here in the Eastern Pacific, and it looks absolutely beautiful. But as you can see, the intertropical convergence zone is fairly active right now. It's all of these westerlies that were coming off the coast of the United States are pretty much limited now. There's high pressure over the majority of the country. So that's causing less winds out of the west than they were previous weeks. So you get a high ridge here in the Atlantic and some cold air here. So let's go. Hey, buddy, how are you? So we are going to go out to the Pacific. And there she is, right there. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It looks like it formed a new eye wall this morning. It was pretty prevalent early this morning, and then it started to move a little bit more north. But it seemed like it re-energized its eye wall here. It does that time to time. There's another system over here. But this is the problem here. How's it going, Thomas? Wacky week. I just sit back and watch it all. All right, so let's see if I can put some longitude and latitude lines in here. That's perfect. It's not going to show me the longitude and latitude there, but that's a blow up of the storm, and that looks pretty good right there. That's a big one. I hate this thing, but you can clearly see. Let me do that again. You can clearly see this blue they have colored in here. This is cooler water here. So this is the peninsula here. This is Mexico here, South America, Mexico, and you can see that these waters, I'll get some temperatures of the water here. These are around 80, 85, 90. So these are basically warm enough to probably boil an egg. But when you get up into here, more north, you're going to start getting into relative 70s, 75 maybe water temperature up here. So this is going to look like this for another couple of days, and then once it gets up into here, it's going to really lose some of its tropical characteristics here, because it's going to get into cooler air temperatures here in the water. And then there's that stupid thing again. So this is cooler water here. But what I want to do is Go here. So this is the water vapor here. Let me throw the longitude and latitudes in there again. So this here is all dry, 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 dry. You got an upper level low here, which is kind of a steering current for this thing here. But you have all of this dry air, and this has only one or two ways it can go. It could go curve in, head up north, because this will probably lift a little bit. So it's probably going to follow along this path here into Southern California, because it can't take a left. It just can't do it. And this is just the water vapor. So these are the upper clouds here in the dark greens. They color that in. But you can clearly see the steering currents. That's why I like to use the water vapor here, because you can see what's going on a little bit better. There's really a mess of high dry air here, obviously over the southwestern part of the United States. But they're getting storms here, not associated with the storm, but they're getting some storms here already. So that's going to saturate the ground a little bit more. But this will be a huge rain event. I don't think there's going to be a lot of surge here. You might get some hefty wind gusts of like 60 miles an hour. When you get down into the peninsula, you're probably going to get some mudslides and stuff. But once it gets into, once it hits land, it's going to lose a lot of its tropical storm status and just be a big, huge rain producer for the next 2-3 days, all the way up into the northwest, kind of, and just hang out there for a few days. So this is going to be a huge, huge rain producer. You can see, I'll do this here. So this is how I chart these things. It's within the latitude and longitude. So you can see it right there. It takes more of a western jog there. Once it stays over, if it stays over this long enough, it's just going to completely re-intensify, because this is all nice and warm in here. So it's got plenty of time to, get better organized, although it's looking pretty good right now. But once it gets up into here, you're going to see it start to unravel, so to speak. So let's get out of here. What happened to Thomas? All right, so I guess I could put the music on. There we go. Okay, I want to go. So let's check out some water temperatures here. I know it's really hard to see for you guys, but so here's the peninsula here. This is Mexico, United States, Texas. But this is the Pacific coast, technically all the way up to Oregon. But you see right in here, these waters are, especially hugging the coast. I mean, they're just, this is pretty much where the storm is right here. really nice and warm. But once you start pushing north, it starts to cool down quite a bit. I mean, cool down for swimming, but like if you went in the water here, you wouldn't even cool off. It's that warm. But once you get up into California, it tends to become a little bit more swimmable. But these waves are going to start really piling up here along the coast. I don't know a lot about the Pacific when it comes to rip currents and stuff like that, but I'm sure they get them. All right, so let's go back. This was yesterday, so this will be updated later. This is the loop. So it's pretty consistent. I mean, this is actually fairly warm even for this time of the year here. So, and this is right in line with the intertropical convergence zone here. This is where everything happens. So, I mean, you very rarely get anything forming in here. It's just too cold. But down in here, they come off or they cross over and they become a wave, and then they become a tropical system here. So when you get up to northern California here, it starts to get really cool. And this is the anomaly. So they're above where they normally are. Not by a lot, but they are above. And way up here in the Pacific Northeast, it's Northwest, it's way above. So you can see right here, this is cold, minus cold here. All right. So what I want to do now is why can't I get there from here? Okay, so this is what I wanted here. All right, so basically what happens is they have a whole bunch of computers. They have the European model, which is probably the most accurate, the American model, which is getting better accurate, but they combine a bunch of these and they get a storm track. So this is the estimated path here, and these are the time frames. And what happens is the further you get out in the time span, the more wider the swath becomes, because the uncertainty is there. So we got what I consider to be a massive hurricane. Right up until it gets to about tomorrow, 6 o'clock, then it starts to, weaken a little bit into a regular Category 1, Category 2 hurricane. And then once it hits, the very extreme southern part of California, you're going to have a tropical storm instead of a hurricane. The winds will come down quite a bit. But right now, it's moving north-northwest at 13 miles an hour, so it's not moving a lot quickly. So it's that could be a problem once it gets here, because if it doesn't move a lot, then it's going to just continue to bring tons and tons of rain here. Because even these tropical storms can be pretty rainy events. I mean, you're talking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of rain sometimes, especially if they stay in an area for a long period of time. We saw that in Texas a few years ago. And then once it gets into Nevada, it's going to be basically just a rain event. But, depending on how much rain it brings and how long it stays there, it could, pose a problem too. So let's go back here to the... This was updated at 9 o'clock tonight. So heavy rainfall associated with Hillary will begin well in advance of the center from the Baja California Peninsula and the southwest of the United States. Flash flooding. Preparation should be completed as soon as possible, as heavy rain will increase ahead of the center of the storm on Saturday. Southwestern United States flash urban and arroyo flooding is expected, with dangerous and low-key catastrophic impacts likely. So this is no laughing matter when it comes to the water. And this is the tropical force wind cone here, so they could extend out 100, 200 miles either way. But, these storms here, the biggest part of the problem is on the eastern side of these. So whoever's on the eastern side of this is going to actually probably get the worst of the surge. And as this wraps around, when it comes up here, it might actually push some of these waters off the coast or away from the coast. And these are the arrival times. When it gets up into here, wind is probably not going to be that much of a problem, but it's going to be a wind-driven rain, so that's another problem. And these are the wind speed probabilities. So here's your legend down here, 90 plus mile an hour in this purple. And as they extend out, they're just going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. But even 80 miles an hour in here could be a huge problem. But once it gets over land, you can see it start to really dissipate as far as the wind speeds. So, all right, so let me get some footage here. This was done 3 hours ago. Stop. Shut up. Okay. All right, so let's shut the music off. Oh my God. And we'll play this.
$46,000 storm drains citywide for any issues that we can address them quickly.
So this is the city of San Diego, which is probably going to be the most impacted city in the United States here, and they're preparing for the coming doom.
Before they become of a significant problem. The Stormwater Department is also placing no parking signs in low-line and flood risk areas, especially at crossings along the San Diego River. And with regard to our unsheltered population, I'd like to give you a quick update there. The city's Homelessness Strategies and Solutions Department has been working to ensure that our shelter system is prepared for our homeless population, make sure that they have the resources they need to stay safe. The San Diego Housing Commission is activating our inclement weather shelters. The city's outreach teams, in partnership with the San Diego River Park Foundation, park rangers, and Caltrans, are working in the areas along the San Diego River where there may be flooding to warn individuals that reside there of the risk and to encourage them to accept shelter that is currently in our homeless shelter system. The 157 people who currently are residing at the 20th and B Safe Sleeping Site will be temporarily relocated to Golden Hall. As many of you may remember, we recently moved the families that were previously living in Golden Hall to a new shelter in Barrio Logan just a few days ago. So that space is now available and can accommodate those folks at 20th and B during this time of need. Now, many San Diegans have asked what they can do during this time to prepare. Number one, make sure that water has a place to go. Take the time right now to start sweeping and picking up trash, leaves, grass clippings, and other debris that collect in storm drains in your neighborhood and clear the rain gutters on your home. Number two, place sandbags on your property. The city has sandbags available at 10 recreation centers across our city. There's one in every city council district. A list of all those pickup locations can be found on the city's website, which is sandiego.gov. Number three, prepare to shelter in place during the storm. Make sure that your phone and other devices are fully charged in case the power goes out.
Right, give me a second because I got to fix this now. My mouse sticks sometimes, so I end up entering a new window and then I got to fix the freaking new window thing. So bear with me here. Which one is it?
And sweeping streets to reduce trash and pollutants that could end up blocking storm drains. We'll be monitoring 15 pump stations and more than 46,000 storm drains citywide for any issues that we can address them quickly before they become of a significant problem. The Stormwater Department is also placing no parking signs in low-line and flood risk areas, especially at crossings along the San Diego River. And with regard to our unsheltered population, I'd like to give you a quick update there. The city's Homelessness Strategies and Solutions Department has been working to ensure that our shelter system is prepared for our homeless population.
Also, on the programming note side, I will be doing floor 3 tonight, early this morning, later, probably around 3:30 or so.
Make sure that they have the resources they need to stay safe. The San Diego Housing Commission is activating our inclement weather shelters. The city's outreach teams, in partnership with the San Diego River Park Foundation, park rangers, and Caltrans, are working in the areas along the San Diego River where there may be flooding to warn individuals that reside there of the risk and to encourage them to accept shelter that is currently in our homeless shelter system. The 157 people who currently are residing at the 20th and B Safe Sleeping Site will be temporarily relocated to Golden Hall. As many of you may remember, we recently moved the families that were previously living in Golden Hall to a new shelter in Barrio Logan just a few days ago. So that space is now available and can accommodate those folks at 20. And B during this time of need. Now, many San Diegans have asked what they can do during this time to prepare. Number one, make sure that water has a place to go. Take the time right now to start sweeping and picking up trash, leaves, grass clippings, and other debris that collect in storm drains in your neighborhood and clear the rain gutters on your home. Number two, Place sandbags on your property. The city has sandbags available at 10 recreation centers across our city. There's one in every city council district. A list of all those pickup locations can be found on the city's website, which is sandiego.gov. Number 3, prepare to shelter in place during the storm. Make sure that your phone and other devices are fully charged in case the power goes out, and make sure the batteries on your flashlight are working. Should Hurricane Hilary hit our city directly, please prioritize your safety. Please stay indoors and avoid any unnecessary travel, particularly on Sunday night and Monday morning. If you must travel,
So what people are going to do as soon as this storm hits is they're going to not listen to anything this guy says. Hey, honeybee, how are you? Hi, and good night. I know I'm on so late. I never get anybody on here. It's too funny. Thanks for coming in, Noah. Appreciate it. Have a good night, kiddo. Stay safe. Hey, did you know that? Did you know that that woman that got unalived was from Dover, New Hampshire? That's what I heard, anyways. Not sure if that's true or not. The one down in Maryland. I think she grew up in Dover, New Hampshire. I'm doing some research on that, but I think she was from Dover. So, Rachel Morin. Have a good night, kiddo. Thank you for stopping by. You didn't hear that? Or no, she's not from Dover, New Hampshire. I thought I heard Gazella say she was from Dover, New Hampshire, which is over there. She looks like she's from New Hampshire, that's for sure. I don't know what that means, but it looks like she's.
do not drive, walk, or ride through flooded waters. Remember that what can look like a large puddle can in fact be quite deep and extremely dangerous. We see this in every rain event, and that unfortunately diverts the resources of our city's first responders to have to deal with those instances. It'd be far.
By the way, I didn't know you were related or married to Rick Snay. It's too funny. That's a long distance relationship, that's for sure. Okay, bye, kiddo.
Preferable for folks to not try and use those well understood and known places where flooding happens, and instead take an alternate route, or again, preferably stay home. Multiple crews from the city's storm patrol will be actively monitoring areas throughout our city and responding to incidences such as temporary flooding and downed trees or branches.
You just see how these stupid rumors start, especially in the Delphi community. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I've been following Delphi for 6 years or so, and I've heard every single rumor you could ever imagine. That's why I try to stay away from it. The Delphi case is not that complicated.
As always, if there is a life-threatening emergency, please call 911. I want San Diegans to rest assured that city crews and first responders are ready to respond to the impacts and emergencies, and we appreciate the part that you will play in making sure that all of us can stay safe and get through this next couple of days. Now, with that, I'd like to hand it over to our Executive Director of our Office of Emergency Services, Chris.
Okay, ready? Here come the stupid questions. Let's see if we can name them.
Heiser. He'll be followed by Caroline Wynn from SDG&E. Chief Heiser.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The mayor did an exceptional job of articulating what's going to happen and what the impact's going to be. I just want to reinforce a couple of things. One is these disasters have two partnerships. One partnership is behind me. It's the city infrastructure that's prepared to respond to the emergency. The other part is who I'm looking at in the cameras.
This is also not a typical situation in California. They have enough problems out there that you have to worry about tropical storms and stuff. So, it's not like an every year occurrence. This actually could be a first. So we'll see how it goes.
Public. It's not going to work unless you take it seriously and follow the direction, not become part of the problem. And the hardest thing we see is a willingness to adjust your schedule based on this emergency. So the easiest way to do it is...
They do that now in Florida and Texas and other parts. They give you about 24 hours to get out voluntarily. If you don't get out voluntarily, then when the storm does hit, they will not come save you because they're not going to risk their lives to go in there and save some dumbass that didn't get out.
If you think this is going to happen, be an inconvenience, stop before you go there. Here's the other part. Right now, my office, the Office of Emergency Services, activated the city's Emergency Operations Center in conjunction with San Diego County's Emergency Operations Center. This is a regional impact. And the one thing you need to understand is we're the smallest part of that impact, but we're part of a system that allows us to reach up all the way, as the mayor mentioned, through the county, through the state, to FEMA for support. So it's not just what the city's doing, it's the entire system being poised to provide the support that the community needs. Our primary function in the EOC right now is to help coordinate activities, provide a common operating picture to the staff so that good decisions can be made based on the best information. So this is real. I appreciate the media. I've said that in the interviews I've had before. It's the recognition that this is not like the other storms we've experienced. It's a huge footprint. It goes all the way to the desert, out into the ocean. They're projecting 12 inches of rain in the mountains over a short period of time. Our city is downstream. It's not if. You are going to see flooding. The estimated winds are in excess of 50 miles an hour. Anticipate the possibility of power outages. This is a real storm that we have not seen before. So again,
yeah, power outages are probably the most underrated of all of the problems because, I'm assuming it's hotter than a forest fire down there right now. And anytime you go without power, now you're going to be going without air conditioning and water and, essential stuff that you need when it's really, really hot. So generators are recommended probably if you had a generator, but power outages, which can last for days, depending on the destruction, but that's an underrated problem.
Take action, pay attention, monitor, listen to the news, maintain your situational awareness so you can respond to this. I'd like to introduce Carolyn Wynn, from SDG&E.
Thank you, Chris. I want to thank Mary Gloria and thank you for all the leaders who stand up here with me today. And I think about the partnership on emergency response and emergency.
Wow, that's a big difference in height, right? He was up there. He's got to be a good 2 feet taller than her. I was just about to say something. Where'd Thomas go?
Preparedness. When I think about this region-wide collaboration on emergency preparedness and protecting our communities from these extreme weather events, more and more of these extreme events are occurring. And at SDG&E, we have an awesome meteorology team, and we have been carefully monitoring these events. In fact, we've been monitoring this tropical storm, which is now turned into a hurricane, over the past 10 days. And we have been preparing the organization for this event. In fact, we have been patrolling our transmission, our distribution, our substations over the past 10 days in preparation for this. Our first concern is the safety of our employees, the safety of our customers, and the safety of our communities that we serve. And we are preparing for the worst. We have zero regrets for preparation. I think Chris said.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being short, but they should have at least tried to adjust this microphone here. But the sound is good, and that's not usual for press conferences because usually the sound at a press conference is absolutely horrible.
Well, we have undertaken extensive preparations for this event to make sure that we have crews, that we have call center representatives, that we have operators and equipment ready to respond to the storm. Heavy rainfall, flash flooding, and high winds have the potential to cause significant number of unplanned and prolonged power outages to our grid. And I just want to be transparent, and I want to let our customers know that we are bracing for the potential for widespread and unplanned outages. But I also want our customers to know that the good news is over 60% of our system is underground. That is very helpful in these situations. However, for the overhead systems, if we do have these high winds that are hitting, especially along the coast, if you're seeing 50-mile-an-hour winds along the coast, there is that potential for these significant winds. So I want to warn customers that there's a potential for down power lines. If you see down power lines, you need to ensure that you're not touching it. Always assume that there's electricity still flowing through those. Call 911 immediately if you see down power lines. Do not touch it. I would encourage all customers to make sure you're securing your outdoor equipment. If you have umbrellas, if you have tarps, anything that is unsecured, please make sure of that. And some of this flash flooding could damage some of our underground pipelines. So if you smell gas, please call 911. And again, if we do have power outages, we're just urging all of our customers to be prepared. Be prepared for prolonged power outages. Make sure that you have emergency kits and supplies.
Okay, so let's get out of here. What I want to do is go here now because this is about 58 minutes ago, and this is going to come from San Diego. All right, so let's present this.
We're tracking Hurricane Hilary. It's going to be a tropical storm once it gets closer towards us here in San Diego. But what does that mean for Sunday? Details ahead.
A Category 4 hurricane is headed our way. How those across the border and here in the South Bay are preparing for the storm.
Wind and heavy rain coming into the East County. We'll show you what people are doing to prepare.
All right, so they love to scare the living shit out of people. It's not going to be a Category 4 hurricane, okay? The likelihood of that happening is very, very, very minute. So it'll be maybe at best a Category 1, which is still pretty bad, but more than likely it's going to be a tropical storm once it hits San Diego. So prepare for a lot of rain.
Prepare for the big storm.
I know I'm here for a purpose, and I'm here to tell what happened to Fifi.
She was a mom, a wife, and a cancer survivor, and she died during a surgery that was supposed to be a simple one. Why her family says her doctors are to blame for her death. And COVID-19 cases are ticking up this summer. Now a senator claims the FDA has approved a controversial COVID treatment. Our very
Good evening, San Diego. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis, and thank you for tuning in for your CBS 8 Plus weather update. We are still tracking Hilary as it is a major hurricane as of right now, but that's well towards the south of us and also well towards the south of Cabo. But it is making that closer approach, now turning a little bit more towards the northwest, and impacts are expected for us into the weekend. So here's what we're watching with Hilary. It's going to be tracking towards Baja California. It does look to lose a little bit more of that steam and not be a major hurricane getting closer to Baja as it is running into some cooler water, especially by tomorrow. The main concern for us is going to be a lot of rain. We're going to get a lot more rain before we even get that system moving closer towards us when we're talking about tropical storm force impacts, and those are mainly going to be the winds. We're expecting that to pick up with the strongest winds, those tropical storm force winds, about Sunday afternoon to Monday morning. So we're just waiting at this point and just
see, the thing is that this is a tropical cyclone, so it's going to go counterclockwise. So it's taking all of the moisture from the storm itself, but it's also bringing a lot of water with it from the ocean. and it just continues to take water and bring it onto land, bring it on. So the outer rain bands are probably 200-300 miles away from the center. So people will see that and say, "Oh my God, this is the storm." No, the storm is still probably 100, 200, 300 miles away from you, but it's how long it persists with bringing water onto land, and the surge. Not so much the surge, but the actual rain bands could, dump 1 to 2 inches an hour at some points. So that's the problem.
Anticipation, of course, there's also some preparation that comes with that, especially when you're talking about a lot of heavy rainfall, and especially for areas that could see upwards of record rainfall, because a lot's going to happen within a short period of time. The latest when it comes to Hillary, it is still a major hurricane, a category 4. There is Cabo San Lucas, and you're seeing it well towards the south of it, so well towards the southwest of it. Hillary will continue to maintain.
These rain bands, go out, because it's pulling everything to the center. It's trying to anyway, so it's grabbing as much moisture as it can. So these clouds here will eventually wrap itself into the system here, and not only that, but it's bringing all this moisture from the ocean with it.
Major category strength before it starts to interact with some cooler waters on its track towards the north. So it's moving towards the northwest at about 12 miles per hour. It is maintaining some wind speeds up to about 130 miles per hour when it comes to maximum sustained wind speeds. Hillary will continue to be a major hurricane at least for the next 24 hours, and then start to break apart a little bit more into the cooler waters. As it gets closer towards Baja, it's expected to.
So land with this current model, landfall will probably be way south of San Diego. So, but it's going to skirt here, and it's not going to really kind of push inland here. It's going to kind of skirt. So it could still be, it may be a hurricane when it hits San Diego, this very southwestern tip. But still, this is going to be a massive rain producer.
To weaken even more, and so being potentially just towards the west of Baja California as a category 1 hurricane with the latest forecast cone. That is subject to change, and that would be on about Sunday morning. We're also talking about the impacts for us here in Southern California. This is something that you're going to be hearing a lot of because it's the first time that it's ever happened. A tropical storm watch has been issued for all of Southern California, with the brunt of that moisture expected across San Diego County. So tropical storm impacts are what we're mainly anticipating. It's going to make its way towards the north, closing in on us right along the border.
This is what we as storm chasers like, firsts of things. Like, this is a unprecedented event. This very rarely happens around here. Usually these storms, when they leave the coast, they are long gone. Sometimes they get caught up in here in the cold air, and then they just dissipate. But usually these move along the track of the intertropical conversion zone, and they're goners. But sometimes, you can have them curve up here because there's a system over here preventing it from going west. So this will be recorded and studied for a long time, this storm here.
Potentially as even a category 1 hurricane, but weakening, and then our impacts look to be tropical storm related. So it does make that movement towards us on Sunday. Conditions start to deteriorate a little bit more. That would be about
tropical storms. That's the fallacy behind tropical storms. I mean, they can produce a lot of unorganized shower activity, and I don't know if this is going to spawn any type of tornadic activity up in here, but it might, because these systems are notorious for creating what they call a circulation up and down, especially the eastern to western quadrants of this stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some, especially in the heavier bands, you'll see maybe some cyclonic warnings.
Sunday afternoon all the way through Monday morning, especially with those stronger wind speeds, and then looks to rain itself out right over Nevada, and that would be and then talking about being post-tropical as it continues to interact with land. As mentioned, tropical storm watch has been issued across Southern California. Also for the outer waters, that's not going to change. This will continue all the way until 2 p.m. on Monday afternoon. Once we get past that,
Surfing is probably going to be really good around here during this.
everything, the models are in pretty good agreement that everything will start to dry out in our forecast and take us into about Tuesday. But before we get to that point, a whole lot of rain is in store. A flood watch has been issued by the National Weather Service across the entire county. Now, it does start on Saturday, and we're seeing that for the mountains as well as for the desert, and then Sunday morning west of the mountains. A lot of people have been asking this question. Why are the mountains and the desert going to see a lot of that moisture before the rest of the county does? And that's because you have to take in consideration the fact that we are a big county that has 4 different microclimates. So we're talking about the higher elevations seeing that activity as the storm system moves in. So closer towards a lot of that moisture in the sky, it will start to impact. We could see a lot of that being runoff, also talking about the desert mountain slopes, seeing a lot of that heavy rainfall leading to flash flood concerns. And so that's why we are seeing this across the county, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation.
I mean, they could probably actually use the rain up in this area or here, but, you know, depending on how much rain they get, might be more than they bargained for, technically.
And I can't stress it enough. The number one problem with this storm system moving in is going to be heavy rain in a short amount of time. We could have some rainfall rates that could be up to about 1 inch per hour, and that is something that we have to just kind of wait and see. If you think back to when we had the atmospheric rivers, a lot of areas did get flooded. We did have some rescues. It's a lot of water all at once. As far as sandbags are concerned, people have been asking me a lot of questions. What can I do to prepare? If you are living in an area or have a business in an area that is prone to flooding, especially when we had those atmospheric rivers over the winter, it's a good idea to get those sandbags. We do have the information on our website at cbs8.com.
Hey, Melissa, how are you? Thanks for coming in.
You could definitely check that out, letting you know the locations of where you can pick up those sandbags. I do believe you have to bring your own shovel, though. So just keep that in mind in the forecast. A lot of heavy rainfall, impassable roads are anticipated, and also a lot of those dry creeks are going to definitely have a lot more water in them. And of course, monitoring the San Diego River, because even when we get about 1 inch or 2 of rain, we start to see those water levels rising, and that's going to be an issue, especially in Mission Valley. When we look at the excessive rainfall outlook, you're noticing that by tomorrow, it starts to increase a little bit more across the desert, and then becoming more widespread by Sunday, as we are looking at the bulk of that moisture rolling in at that time. So it's elevated west of the mountains, but the biggest concern is going to be across the mountains as well as for the desert. When we have hurricanes or any type of tropical cyclone, something I always want to stress to people, so you kind of know this, just a general rule of thumb, you can kind of dissect it. You can put a little cross and then look at the different quadrants when it comes to it. The northeast quadrant is always where we have the strongest wind speeds and also a lot of the rain. And so with the current forecast track, it has it moving from the north towards the south. So the northeast quadrant would be across the mountains and the desert. That's why they're anticipating the bulk of that rain. And we're talking about potentially an upwards of 5 to 7 inches of rainfall. It's going to be kind of sketchy over the next couple of days, and just really have to be careful out there. Let's go ahead and set the clock in motion and see some timing when it does come to these heavier pockets of rainfall. So we start to see more rainfall in the forecast, and it's starting to creep in a little bit more. And that'll be about 9 p.m. on Saturday. A lot of cloud cover across the county.
I'm okay. Just hanging out. It's absolutely freezing out here, but what are you going to do? We're not going to get a summer here this year, unfortunately. How are you doing? Good? Thomas was in here earlier. I don't know where he went. But we're going to shift gears here now a little bit. I'm going to go into this case here with the Rachel Morin thing. And I just found out yesterday that she's actually from Dover, New Hampshire. So that's, I don't know, about 40 miles that way. So, um, so this is the now infamous Ring doorbell video press conference. So let's go over this. This is from, I believe this was yesterday. Nope, this was 5 hours ago. Okay. $60? That's cooler than here. I don't want to do that. Okay, so this is odd. This whole thing here is fairly odd in my opinion. So he's leaving, right? Where are you that it's so hot? I'll take some of that heat. we we've only had one 90-degree day here, and that was early in July. So it's been rather horrible here, literally. It's either raining. Well, you're not that far from us. Yeah, it's been either raining here or dry and cold. It's this is definitely the coldest summer I can remember here. But I love heat. So this is just so bizarre that this guy is backing out of this doorway. So this I don't know if people know who this is. This is the Maryland mom that was unalived in Maryland, and they got a DNA hit on this guy here, who had some sort of a home invasion or essay here on whoever's shutting this door. And this is the infamous Ring doorbell video here. But it doesn't look like he's in a rush to get out of there. Right? I'm up here. I'm up here in I don't know, central New Hampshire. It's got to be, I don't know, it's probably about 56, 57 right now. I'm outside, so. Oh shit! Sorry. Let me. Sorry. I forget to do this all the time. Okay, let's do this again.
And that we are about to show you on our TV screens to be the person that murdered, raped, we're about to show you on our TV.
See, isn't it just a little weird to you that this guy's just backing out of this apartment door? Like when most people leave, right? They walking out. He's like backing out of the doorway. I wish I could slow this down. So you can see that now. Thank you. Thank you for telling me, because I would have gone, entire live without anybody seeing anything but me. It's weird. I either forget to do that or forget to turn my mic on.
to show you on our TV screens to be the person that murdered Rachel Morin on TV screens, to be the person that murdered Rachel Morin on August 5th.
A big break in the murder of Rachel Morin, a mom of 5 attacked on a trail in Bel Air, Maryland 2 weeks ago. Sheriff's officials need your help IDing and finding the man in this video recorded after a home invasion in Los Angeles in March. Thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy. The DNA match and the surveillance video released are major steps in figuring out who murdered Rachel Morin. The chief deputy of the Harford County Sheriff's Office says they received the information about the DNA match and the case in Los Angeles on Wednesday night. Chief Deputy William Davis explained how they found out about the connection between the two cases.
That DNA was analyzed by the Maryland State Police, and it was ran through the National CODIS system. This DNA evidence has come back as a match tied to a home invasion and an assault of a young girl in Los Angeles this past March. Unfortunately, that suspect has not been positively identified, but he did leave behind his DNA.
The LAPD told me that they are aware of the connection, but they aren't putting out much more information about that March case. We know it involves an assault on a young girl where DNA was left behind, and I've requested the incident report to learn more about it. The video released shows a man leaving the front door of the home in March, and what appears to be a person of smaller stature shutting the door. Here's more of Chief Deputy Davis describing the person in the video.
Based on our analysis of this video and witness observations, we believe the suspect to be approximately 5'9", 160 pounds, and of Hispanic descent. We want to make it clear that we believe the suspect acted alone, and he doesn't represent the entire Hispanic community of Harford County, who we are now partnering with to identify this suspect.
Finally, Colonel Davis is reminding people to be careful and to take precautions when visiting the Ma and Pa Trail.
Be alert, walk with a friend, don't allow yourself to be distracted by your cell phone or headphones. And finally, if you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable or that you think is suspicious, act on those instincts and call 911. And lastly, we will continue our increased presence on the Ma and Pa Trail.
Rachel Morin went out for a run on the Ma and Pa Trail in the early evening of August 5th. Her boyfriend reported her missing several hours later. He is now pleading on his Facebook page for people to help identify the man in the video. To get a little more perspective on the importance of this being a stranger attack and the importance of the surveillance,
So this is, I've been wanting to do this. This is the Mom and Pop Trail. There's a deer. Let me see if I can get. I'm really awful at this shit. So bear with me here. It won't let me get there. Anyways, it won't let me do it. Whee! I can't. I can't do it. I'm really bad at that. All right, let's try to layer it. Yeah, it's kind of a trail off on its own, though. I think, it's definitely secluded. Can I do it now, you think? I did it. So this is the trail. How did I get in the parking lot? There's condos right here. There's a person walking right there, so seems weird. I'm just wondering if this person here had stalked her somehow via social media or something.
Video. I spoke with retired
I'll try to get on that trail behind the scenes here.
NYPD Sergeant Joe Giacalone, who's been following the case closely.
Well, I wasn't too surprised that this was a stranger, and I'll tell you why. I know people say, it's easy to say after the fact, but when the police were up in their patrols, they spent another $20,000 on an ATV. They were showing signs that this was a stranger type, incident, and I was kind of worried about the whole sexual assault thing too. And that's generally what we see in stranger attacks like this. So we don't know for sure what happened, but they're talking about DNA. Listen, she was a jogger. She was in great shape. She could have scratched them. They could be DNA under the fingernails. It could come from a variety of sources, not just the sexual assault, of course. But I think that they still have their work cut out for them to try to track this guy down, because apparently he's coming from LA to Maryland. I mean, that's a long trip. How did he get there? And there's a lot of questions that remain to be answered.
The suspect made his way from Los Angeles in March to Maryland in August, where sheriff's officials say he murdered Rachel Morin. Giacalone says the video contains other important clues that could help track down the killer.
Now, about the video that LA released, you can also see he has a cell phone in his pocket too, because as he's leaving, if you take a look at it and look at it closely, you can see it's something lighting up in his pocket as he's leaving. So now, listen, we have two different states. I think the feds come into this. I think they bring all their toys to bear. And I think we look at some geofencing and some triangulation and try to figure out what that cell phone is. Remember, where this happened in Maryland is kind of remote, right? So there's not a lot of people around per se, and they might be able to zone in on a specific phone. But yeah, and they can actually get it down within a few feet. And because so few people are at that trail at a specific time, they might be able to do so. Now, you remember, he also has to have a plan of escape. So if he was going into this park specifically for this reason, he had a plan of escape. And there's actually, they say that about a quarter mile into the trail, you have to think that, it's got to be like there's a cul-de-sac there.
Giacalone also said this case contains lessons about not pointing fingers at people too early.
I mean, they put the boyfriend through a lot on social media and online about, labeling him as a suspect and all the other things that go along. And again, it didn't come out to be him. So,
yeah, but that's not like, 9 times out of 10, it's usually somebody that's really close to the person, especially when it's related to something like this, I mean, I don't blame people for thinking it's somebody close to her, because it's usually the case all the time. So
Just be careful about who you accuse without evidence, because these things can really damage people, especially when they're grieving and going through difficult times.
Harford County officials do not believe Rachel Morin knew her attacker. They're calling this potentially a random attack, as you heard earlier. I asked Jack Alone whether these stranger attacks, which I call boogeyman.
see, it's just odd that he's coming out of this apartment backwards. So it's telling me that he's not supposed to be there. He's not fully clothed. Who does that?
And attacks happen more often than we think.
No, not really. We are victimized by someone we know most of the time. And when they say most, it depends on which statistic you look at, but generally about 3/4 of the time, it's somebody that's very close to the victim. So the boogeyman or the guy who jumps out of the bushes is very rare, but understand, even if it's 25%, that's still a lot in regards to what we're talking about here. But for law enforcement, these are the cases that can keep you up at night, because they're not going to stop until they're caught, right? Generally, when you have cases where the suspect is the person that's closest to him, these are the easiest ones.
He'll make another mistake. They usually do. They usually make one or two mistakes. The problem right now with him, he's in probably the most populated place in the country, right? You got Maryland, Virginia. So he could be anywhere.
Ones to close. These, not so much, specifically when you have a guy that's already been across the country.
Harford County has set up a special tip email address. Anyone with information about Rachel Morin's murder or the man in the video can email rmtips@harfordsheriff.org or call 410-83.
That necklace is a giveaway there. That's, if they can somehow, I don't know, blow this up with, I don't know, some initials or maybe markings on that necklace.
7788. And just a reminder about what Colonel Davis said. Be aware of your surroundings no matter where you live, and always call 911.
Carry a big freaking gun. That's what you got to do. I'm all for women carrying big freaking guns, or at least having some sort of martial arts training. Carry a big freaking gun. If I was a woman, I wouldn't leave the house without a gun, period.
One, if you see something that makes you fearful, trust your gut. For Law and Crime, I'm Anjanette Levy.
You just can't make this freaking shit up. You just can't. All right, so we're going to go to this clown out in Idaho here, Brian Kohlberger. Now, sorry. All right, so let's go here. Oh, I know what I wanted to do before I do that. So, so I did find a trail. I can't get on it, I don't think. So this is the trail, and it goes on both sides, I think. Nope. It's just here, and it's labeled Mon Paw Trail right there. So that's the trail right there. And apparently once you get past these condos here, there's really nothing. There may be some cams here. Ring doorbells maybe, but I'm pretty sure, the cops have pretty much ask for those. All right, so let's go to dumbass over in Idaho. So this guy here is being accused of unaliving 4 people in Moscow, Idaho, and they tried to have a motion to get rid of the grand jury impact on this. The defense's motion to delay the trial, confirming the October 2nd trial date for the accused murderer. However, the judge will take time to decide whether the state must produce DNA records for the defense, like how DNA from the crime scene was tested and what databases were used. Okay.
On the next sheet, but not the other 3.
John, we didn't realize this was going to be an issue. We have different events, everything.
Okay, so I'm going to mute my mic because I'm assuming I'm getting an echo here. So I'll try to remember to put it back on.
That we received from the lab. We can't do something that doesn't exist. They're hoping that there's something else there that's not there.
And welcome back to the special hour of coverage of the Widower murder retrial. I'm Kelly Craft. Accused quadruple murderer Brian Kohberger was back in court today. This was for a motions hearing ahead of his October trial. According to our producer in the courtroom, Anna Armez, Kohberger walked into the courtroom, half smiled at the jury, then he took a deep breath, and then the hearing began. The first witness to take the stand was Stephen Mercer. He's a criminal defense attorney who specializes in the use of DNA evidence. He testified about the impact and validity of the DNA evidence found in this case.
How did you become involved in this?
Yeah, so the question was, what would a reasonable defense attorney do when confronted with DNA evidence that needs to be litigated? What are the minimum practice standards? So I'm not here to discuss Idaho's discovery rules or offer legal opinions about constitutional standards. Rather, my area of focus is based on my experience, training, and expertise in forensic DNA litigation.
My personal opinion about this guy here, Brian Kohberger, is he's guilty as sin, but I think this is going to be a really tough case to prosecute because I think they got a really good lawyer on the opposing side, and she's going to do everything to get this guy at least a hung jury or a appeal for this because of this grand jury, and you know, it's two things I have a problem with in this case is now I don't know what the prosecution has for DNA evidence, but I don't think they found anything in his car, and that's odd to me. You unalive 4 people like that, and you're not transferring any blood to your car. Not saying he didn't. Just saying, doesn't seem like they have that, and they do have touch DNA on a knife sheath, but touch DNA can be disputed, man. I'm telling you, it's not like regular DNA. It's a big community, college town. People touch things all the time, and then the cell phone pings. I'm pretty sure the defense is going to have people in there to try to debunk some of the cell phone pings, because cell phone pings are, depending on the cell towers and all of that other stuff, who knows? So I think he's guilty, but this is going to be a tough case, period, in my opinion.
What a minimum practice standard would be for a reasonably competent trial attorney who must comply with their duty to investigate the case on behalf of their client.
And is that because what you pick when you get genetic genealogy?
Well, yes. I mean, forensic evidence is often central in a case, and DNA evidence in particular. And so when there's an item, for example, here of an environmental sample of trace DNA evidence that, as I understand it from reviewing the pleadings, was twice tested, first for an STR profile, and then later for a genomic profile. The question becomes, what is the minimum practice standard for an attorney to be effective in your representation of the client given that type of evidence?
When you're talking about two samples happening, or two tests happening, why should an attorney know that?
Well, there are a number of reasons why it's crucial for the attorney to investigate any testing of evidence that is central to a case. And again, here it's an environmental sample of trace DNA that is being tested. And so it's essential for the attorney to know, for a number of reasons, about the details of the testing and the investigation when we're talking specifically about forensic genealogy. Number one is there's pretrial concerns. And those pretrial concerns that can be raised would involve suppression issues and potentially Fourth Amendment issues. These are questions that are very much evolving in the state of our litigation.
People forget that this is a death penalty case. So, maybe one of those things where, like they had down in Texas with that Laredo, Texas piece of shit. They found him guilty because, probably the dumbest criminal ever. But yet they didn't give him the death penalty. Now, the guy down in Laredo, Texas definitely deserved the death penalty, in my opinion. So, they can say death penalty all they want, but until somebody actually gets the death penalty, this guy deserves the death penalty too, as far as I'm concerned. But, it's... all I'm saying is it's tough to get both. You get, guilty charge and then the death penalty case. They're going to have to, in my opinion, they're going to have to come up with more evidence than that.
But to understand the viability of the Fourth Amendment challenge, there has to be a factual investigation. There has to be a determination of...
Well, what the hell do I know? I don't know. How many death penalty cases has there been in the last 2 years or so? Not very many. I think Letitia Stout should have gotten the death penalty too, in my opinion. And same with Shabusiness.
Of the conduct that law enforcement undertook during...
The guy that killed his 3 kids in Ohio, he should be rushed to the death penalty because he's fucking guilty.
Forensic analysis of the genealogy. So, for example, was it fast and loose? Was there searching of data banks that violated the terms and conditions of those data banks? Was there surreptitious DNA collection from individuals, targeted individuals in family trees? So these are very fact-specific inquiries that the attorney must know in formulating a suppression challenge under the Fourth Amendment, because it's all about reasonable expectations of privacy. And what's really critical here to understand, and this is close to me from my litigation, early on, the government and law enforcement's argument was always there are minimal privacy interests at stake because forensic DNA profiles like a fingerprint, and it says nothing about who the person is.
All right, Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter. She was inside the courtroom. And Chanley, there has been so much going on here with these hearings today. She has a debrief now. Chanley, what do you have for us?
Thanks so much, Kelly. Yeah, what a day it has been inside the Slayton County Courthouse as we've been watching the defense fight by bringing their own expert witnesses in to try to convince this judge to issue an order compelling prosecutors to hand over everything related to the genetic genealogy investigation that was taken under by the FBI.
So basically, they're questioning the genetic genealogy of the suspect in finding the suspect. And I'm not legal enough of an expert to figure this shit out, but obviously she wants it and then are giving it to her. Whether it exists or not, I don't know. But this is a very steep contention on her part.
In November, after these murders happened, to try to pinpoint a potential lead on a suspect. And we know that they were able to pinpoint the biological father of the alleged murderer, Brian Koberger's father. They then, of course, conducted a cheek swab after his arrest, and it was a match for the touch DNA on the knife sheath left at the crime scene November 13th of last year.
I'm just saying, touch DNA is difficult, right? Like, it'd be different if, you had touch DNA in a very secluded place, right? I mean, this is a college town, so you get people going in and out all the time. And there's been cases, a couple of weeks ago, there was a deputy on in regards to the Gilgo 4 case where he had a suspect that was had DNA, touch DNA, and they found him guilty in a court of law. Come to find out, he was innocent. There was another person in there. He unfortunately just sat on the steps and got some of the DNA on him, and that's how they found it. But he was vindicated of having any role in the murder whatsoever. So it does happen. Not saying it happened in this case, but touch DNA is a little different. And it's hard for me to, it's just hard for me to understand how he got from that house and that crime scene to his car without transferring any of that evidence into his car. Now, I'm not saying they don't have that. I'm just saying it would be bizarre if after they basically just combed that car through and through and they don't find anything.
So that's why all of this is so important to the defense, because they want to challenge every little step of this investigation. However, prosecutors are countering to the judge that this isn't relevant. This potential investigation that gave them a lead is not part of the case. They would not call any witnesses related to that investigation, and therefore, under Idaho Rule 16, it would not qualify as part of the discovery. So the judge is going to have to make this decision at some point, possibly this afternoon. But inside the courtroom, I want to take you in there for what our cameras can't show, and that's the gallery. It is a pretty packed house inside the courtroom. We have media from all over the nation, community members here that we see almost at every hearing when this is before the judge. And we have the family of one of the victims, Kaylee Gonsalves, who earlier today walked inside this door right behind me, and they were solemn yet hopeful. The mother of Kaylee, Christy, told me that she was up.
These poor freaking people, it's just, these are the people that I feel really bad for. I mean, this is the last thing that these people have ever wanted to do probably in their life. This is hell for them. If there is a hell, this is it. I mean, I feel awful for these people. And this is just the beginning, I always say that this is just the beginning for them. They're going to have to sit through this for at least, in my opinion, 2 years. And then if there's an appeal, that's why I'm not, that much of a proponent for the death penalty, because the death penalty, I think it has to go to an appeal anyways. Not sure about that, but death penalties can drag out for years.
optimistic as they went into court today with their family attorney, Shannon Gray, and just wanting to make sure that justice is served, that the process of justice is unfolding, that they are informed of every aspect of this. We did notice that the T-shirt of one of the family members is advocating a hashtag justice for.
Sorry, I'm yawning too much for my face to be up here. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do this. Okay. I fucking love that.
Haley, an Idaho bill that passed the firing squad as a potential penalty under the death penalty here as an alternate to lethal injection, and that's being worn. As you can see on the screen, they're inside the courtroom during all of this unfolding. So a strong statement on what they feel from that family, which we knew because we have caught up with the family there, and they definitely are advocating for the death penalty. But that's why, according to the judge, these motions are so important because this is a capital case. They want to make sure they cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And just, Kelly, coming up next, we are expecting, there's a short court break this afternoon, but we are expecting several more motions to be taken up. We're only on number 1 of 6. Will we run out of time? We don't know yet, but we do have another motion from the defense asking for a second stay in the proceedings. They want more of a delay without waiving the speedy trial right of the defendant. And then there's a handful of motions from the prosecution, including one about the alibi, demanding more specifics there. So a lot more to come today, hopefully, here in Moscow. But for now, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Shanley, thank you so much.
Yeah, and in my opinion, this guy here is kind of pulling at the strings here. He's, in my opinion, this is all what he wanted. He wants the attention. He wants to put these families through the living hell. He's just an ass face. But that's just my opinion. All right, so we're going to move on here. I want to go to this case here first. This is about a British nurse who was found guilty of killing 7 newborn children. So let's I'm going to put this up first because that's what I do. Because we are going over true crime now. So some of these things may be disturbing. There you go with that. And just a horror, right? So let me give you a background on this. This story is disturbing. A British nurse has been found guilty of killing 7 newborn children and attempting to murder 6 more. Neonatal nurse Lacey Letby was accused of killing the babies in 2015, 2016 by overfeeding them with milk and injecting them with air and insulin. Unbelievable. Why?
Warn you now, this next story is disturbing. A British nurse has been found guilty of killing 7 newborn children and attempting to murder 6 more. Those deaths took place between 2015 and 2016. Neonatal nurse Lucy Letby was accused of killing the babies by overfeeding them with milk and injecting them with air and insulin. UK Health Secretary Steve Barclay is now launching an independent inquiry into the case. Joining
when both my daughters were born, they had to undergo that nightmare of the diabetes shot every 4 hours or so, I think it was, and boy was I pissed. You never know what they're injecting kids with, so when you hear stories like this,
Joining us now from London with more is CBS News foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tayeb. Imtiaz, this sounds like the backstory of misery, truly horrific. We should say that the nurse denied the allegations. How did prosecutors connect her to the deaths?
Lana, good to talk to you. Yeah, this is obviously a very disturbing story. As we've been saying, Ms. Letby has been convicted of 7 counts of killing newborns and the attempted killing of 6. There were 22 charges in total. She was convicted of 16 by this jury, which deliberated for 22 days. Now, to answer your question of how the prosecution really came at this case and tried to really kind of present this really dark and disturbing allegations against this neonatal nurse, well, essentially, at one point from 2015 to 2017, there was a series of deaths in this neonatal unit. And that, of course, caused an awful lot of alarm from those inside that hospital. And Ms. Ledby was described as somebody who was present at all of these deaths and at all of these periods in which these children were suffering so terribly. But there's one other crucial bit of information here. Yes, there was a lot of attention on her and focus on her. We have to remember she was first taken into custody back in 2015, but was still able to work in that hospital until 2017. But when investigators entered her home, they found a piece of paper where she had written, "I have done this." Lana.
Imtiaz.
Wow. Why?
What type of sentence is she now facing?
So the way it works here in the UK is that her sentencing hearing will be on Monday, and that's when we will find out just what she will be sentenced for. But again, here in England, under English law, she will likely face life in prison, and that's really going to be the extent of it, despite the horrific nature of her crime. We have to remember that not only is she responsible for the deaths of 7 infants, she's also considered the most prolific child killer in Great Britain. So this, of course, again, a very disturbing case. And although the families of those very small infants who were killed by her...
Unbelievable. This is just awful.
Will be reading out victim impact statements in court on Monday. It is likely...
Just think at one time, England had probably one of the most barbaric ways of unaliving people found guilty in the world. I mean, Henry VIII himself got rid of like 3 of his wives by, chopping their heads off, and that was considered to be a lenient sentence.
That Ms. Ledby will not be present here in the UK. There are measures in place in which those who are convicted...
I think it was 2. Anne Boleyn and Lady, forget the other one.
Or convicted rather of crimes are allowed to not attend hearings where victim impact statements are read out. That, of course, is hugely controversial here in the UK. Of course, this case involving a woman considered the most prolific serial killer of children in British history.
Imtiaz, thank you.
Unbelievable. It's just insane. Okay, so let's she'll get life for sure. All right, we got more fires in Canada, so let's check this out. There's fires everywhere this year. Fires. So this is going on in Canada. Then I'm going to check the Atlantic for the tropics and then get out of here. Okay, so this is going on. I mean, there's been fires in Canada all year. It seems like thousands of people have been forced to evacuate as wildfires scorch parts of Canada. Thick plumes of smoke cover towns as emergency crews contain the fires. So here we go.
Tonight, our northern neighbor awash in an eerie red glow as more than 1,000 blazes sweep across Canada in the country's worst wildfire season on record. Officials say half of the population in Canada's Northwest Territory has been displaced, now blanketed in smoke. Lines at gas stations stretching down roads as residents geared up to get out ahead of the weekend.
When you see all this, I honestly want to get out of here.
Towering flames now at the doorstep of one of the remote region's largest cities, Yellowknife. Throngs of people there boarding buses to escape the fire danger, while more than 1,000 people left on evacuation flights,
Where are they going to go?
according to officials.
Just before I left to go to the airport today, another community was evacuated, Kikisa. I've never seen anything like it, and I've never heard anyone speculate that in my lifetime something like this would happen.
Further south in British Columbia, residents watched in horror as thick plumes of smoke darkened the sky.
It was like 100 years of firefighting all at once in one night. There was a significant number of structures that were lost last night, and we're going to do our best to improve that.
Smoke from the flames streaming into the U.S., impacting Minnesota and Wisconsin today. Americans have felt the effects of Canada's wildfire season all summer, worsening air quality to record levels in parts of the U.S. Scientists warn it's more fallout from climate change's impact on fires.
It's concerning simply because you just don't expect to see it. And if you can see it, you know that you're breathing it.
And tonight there's mounting frustration from Canadians trying to find information about the fires on Facebook. Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, started blocking Canadians from viewing or posting news links after the government there passed a bill that would require big tech to pay local news outlets fees for showing their content.
I'm asking them to go back on their decision and allow people who have access to news and information.
In a statement to NBC News, a Meta spokesperson said people in Canada can continue to use our technologies to connect with their communities and access reputable information, pointing them to a feature called Safety Check. Tonight, Canada's wildfire season blazes on, leaving evacuating residents unsure of what they will return home
This has been a bad year for them up there for sure.
to.
Officials say the next few days in the firefight will be absolutely critical in protecting the city of Yellowknife, with changing winds and little rain in the forecast. So far this year, more than 34 million acres have been burned by wildfires in Canada. To put that number in perspective, that is 20 times more what has been scorched here in the U.S. Ellison?
Emily Aketa, thank you.
Okay. Whoops. Okay, so that's that. I've been here almost 2 hours, so let's go to the Atlantic side of things now, because there's activity there along with the Pacific coast, which is Hillary, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4 systems of note, but this one here seems to be the most organized at this point. I'll be shocked if this doesn't come a tropical depression by tomorrow. Showers and thunderstorms, area low pressure, the Cape Verde Islands, generally favorable for the next few days. But early next week, upper level winds over the system are forecast to increase, and further development is not expected. So this one here is probably going to enter some fierce westerlies and but we'll take a look at it anyways. It's been a pretty quiet year for the Atlantic for sure. It's just getting pummeled by upper level winds. It's just been the story of the year. But, you know, they may subside in the next couple of weeks or so here. But here's that system right here. And you can see a broad area of low pressure here trying to form. But these are the winds that are shearing any type of, development. But this system here, I was watching a couple of days ago. It seems like there's a really big swirl level low here. And again, you have all of these westerlies here that are going to prohibit any development whatsoever in the Gulf. But who knows, the next couple of days or so, once it gets into the Gulf here, have to watch that, because I'm assuming that these waters in here are really warm. So it's going to definitely bring showers to Florida, no doubt. All right, so that's going to do it for me. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be on in a little while, going over Florida 4. Everybody have a good weekend. Whoever came in, thank you for coming in. Like and subscribe if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. One more of these. And everybody be safe. Everybody have a great weekend.